Coming up in this episode, raging floods tear through Maryland.
I cannot believe this is happening to us.
Leaving residents with nowhere to run.
We were literally trapped.
In the Himalayas, a couple stranded in a blizzard battle for survival.
Dipakshi and I were looking at each other and were thinking that what have we done?
And a crew on the round-the-world boat race are caught off guard by a rare weather phenomenon.
A southerly buster is not predictable. We were just being thrown around and very much at the mercy of the conditions.
The Clipper race is an endurance test like no other. It's a 46,000-mile round-the-world race on a 70-foot yacht, where sailors battle high seas, unpredictable weather, and dangerous storms. Among the group of everyday people who take up this challenge is marketing consultant Rory Rind.
The Round the World Clipper race is very unique because somebody without any experience whatsoever, had never stepped on a boat before, can become a round the world sailor.
In 2017, Rory signs up for the challenge, fully aware that it isn't all going to be plain sailing.
It's an extreme sport, and like any extreme sport, there are dangers, and everyone that takes part in the Clipper race is aware of that, and for that reason, we undergo a lot of training.
In the race's 23-year history, there have been 3 fatalities. And despite extensive training, taking on Mother Nature is a dangerous gamble.
Out on the open sea, weather is something that you work with and battle against every day, and you never take it lightly, you never take it for granted. In very rough conditions, one is thrown around the boat. That's a pretty regular occurrence.
Being able to predict what extreme weather conditions the team may face is a crucial task, and one that falls to race director Mark Light.
We monitor the weather every day while the yachts are at sea. We monitor it remotely. With weather forecasting techniques these days, most weather patterns and systems are relatively predictable, but certain areas in the world, less so.
One such area is around the south coast of Australia. With the constantly changing conditions, it's one of the most inhospitable parts of the planet. Just off the coast of Sydney, Rory is on the 4th leg of the race.
We were either first or second, I think, at that stage. We were very happy with our position, we were happy with the way we were racing. And then we started seeing a cloud build up and the wind drop. We were concerned about this cloud that was building up, and so the watch leader said, look, could you go down and speak to the skipper, get him to come and have a look at this cloud. He came up and saw the clouds and issued some instructions, but then the wind picked up a bit.
The stormy conditions mark the arrival of an extreme weather phenomenon called a southerly buster.
It's essentially a cold front, massive cold air moving up from the south, changing the wind direction by up to 180 degrees. And wind speed can go from, 15, 20 knots all the way up to 50, 60 knots, and waves up to 50, 60 feet. And all this can happen in seconds. It's very, very intense.
We knew there was going to be some high winds coming, but nothing that we got in the forecast would indicate a southerly buster. But a southerly buster is not predictable, and that's part of the problem. The wind was very strong. It felt like it was coming from every direction. The water was coming in from both sides, just pouring over everybody. One forgets just how much power there is in a wave.
Off the coast of Australia, Rory Rind and his crewmates are battling a ferocious southerly buster, which is threatening to capsize their 70-foot yacht.
We were at not 90 degrees, but pretty close to 90 degrees, so it's very difficult to move around. The main concern was just getting the sails down and getting some control over the boat. But trying to work in those conditions when the boat is being thrown all over the place and trying to hold on and work at the same time is very difficult. One of the crew got thrown from one side of the boat to the other. We were just being thrown around and very much at the mercy of the conditions.
The only hope for Rory and the rest of the crew is to work together to fight back against the brutal buster.
It's amazing how much the training kicks in. At that stage, you realise certain things have to be done, and it's just a case of getting on and do them. So you don't really have time to think too much other than the task that you need to achieve. And we just got on with it. Without teamwork, the situation would have been a lot worse. It's very possible we might have not recovered the boat.
Eventually, Rory and his crew win the battle against the buster and save their clipper from capsizing.
After we recovered it, the first feeling was elation. It was just an amazing feeling that we'd been through it. Afterwards, one starts feeling a little bit exhausted because of the amount of effort that it's taken to do it, and it's the day later that you feel all the bruises.
And unfortunately for Rory and his crewmates, it's not just their bodies that take a beating.
We'd lost a lot of time in the race because we'd taken our sails down, we'd slowed down, we'd had to then get our sails back up and start racing again. We lost a couple of positions and we lost a bit of time, but it just brought us even closer together because we'd achieved something as a team. And that was something that we all felt very strongly about and very good about.
Rory and his team went on to claim third place in the race. They also gained a greater understanding of the power of Mother Nature.
It's always important to get as much information before you set sail and get as much information while you're sailing because the weather can change and the weather has an immense effect on sailing conditions and safety, so one treats weather with a huge amount of respect.